Namaste, Hitesh bhai. Thank you
Namaste.
for accepting and giving me the privilege of having this conversation with you and learning from you and your tremendous success and in the journey of building some of the most amazing companies in the world. Uh, I know that recently you and your organization, Waaree Group of Industries and the Waaree Solar, was chosen as the most recognized brand in all over Asia. That is such a powerful realization of all your efforts. So I would like today, in the spirit of learning from you, start asking of you, because in India, entrepreneurship is quite different, as you said, as you have always said. So please share with us your thought process of what is an entrepreneur or entrepreneurship.
I think in India, the entrepreneurship starts differently. Here, what I have seen in the developed countries and here, the person probably who's selling the banana on his cart, probably by investing less than $10, and he continues that entrepreneurship at his next generation. So, and this comes into the blood of the next generation. So the rules of the business there are the different what we see in a proper developed world, and that comes in a certain community. If we talk about the communities we call here in India, Marwaris and Gujaratis, we call them their DNA or their. If you take their blood test, you'll find that they are born entrepreneurs. So this is a difference I see that from where you are coming, which state you are coming, which families you are coming, and how you are becoming the entrepreneurs. The second, the largest thing I see is here that in certain states of the India, it is like I will call entrepreneurship is more than a passion, where it's a 24/7. I will call it making the money. Thinking of only making and making the money, and that I do not see in a other part of the world. The pressure or passion, whatever you call for. So this is the two differences I see.
So are you summarizing in defining entrepreneurship that you have seen is more sort of in the genetics of some of the Indian cultures, and secondly, it is also driven in those cultures especially that you have shared for creating wealth, and those are the two guiding principles of entrepreneurship. Is
Right.
that the correct summary of
Yes.
that? Okay. So if that is the correct definition, then please describe to me or to the readers how that evolves into the method of madness of creating an enterprise. In short, you created a precision flow right after you flow companies, right as a trader. So share with us your journey from the time you got out of college to being this money driven, genetically encoded business thought person into who you are today.
See, I born in a very small village where there were no schools and no communications on those days. You have to go by walk or cycle for probably 4.5, 5 miles to reach to the school. But we had a small shops, and when you are going to the school, if you have time, you have to be in a shop, and when you come back from the school, you have to be back in a shop. So you start learning. I started at that time learning at a very young age, purchase and sale, and taking the money from the people for the sale of the goods and other things. So it comes into the genes to answer that. And For a further education, I came to Mumbai, and after finishing my 12th standard, of course, being from the poor family, it was always a question I had to do something for me and for my family. And I had to do something my own. The madness, I think, probably that started from there. When you have something in your mind, you're not going to work for someone and you will do for your own. That's the first step, I believe, came into me. And 12th standard onwards, I started doing something, buying and selling and trying to make the money. And till I reached to the graduation, of course, I could find some of the products which I can focus and I can start developing that. But of course, from the 12th onwards, the business was started. That is the age of 17, 18. And I was not able to get the registration at that age of my company. So I have to wait for 2 more years and start my first company. In the trading, which comes normally in any, you can say the hunger of the growth, which was always there. And with that hunger, we were looking for the continuous opportunities. I was alone, then slowly the other family members joined. But in those, we found that to focus on the instrumentation, where the India was absolutely dependent to buy instrumentation from the outside, pressure and temperature gauges, and very few companies were in the country to do that business. We thought that is a good idea to go into. And we started the trading. And in trading, again, we found the large opportunity of the manufacturing because of the import and some monopolistic supply constraint issues. We moved into the manufacturing. Again, you have the challenge of the capital here, you have the challenge of the recognition, the large players in the market and the monopolistic market players don't want you to be in the business. But when the passion is there and madness is there, that I will fight to them and definitely I will do something. And I will say in all this, there was a big confidence on the gut feeling for us. For me, it was always that there was no calculation, no maths, no business plan. Only one thing in mind, which I call always what my gut feeling is telling me, not the mind and not the presentations or calculations. And that the gut feeling was always there. Yes, I will do, I can do. The problems are going to be there. And I have to find always an opportunity in problems and not continue talking about this problem and that problem. Slowly, that business, we could build up to take the 55% market share in the country. And where the country was importing, we could export to more than 65 countries across the globe. It took 20 years. 20 years that journey, we could make more than 7 different joint ventures, collaborations in India, right from the Japanese to the Canadian to American. And this business was reaching to the roof of when you reach a 55% market share, we were always thinking that we need to do something more. Again, that hungerness comes.
Never stops.
Again, that you feel that you have to find something. And there is always a gut feeling that I'm a commerce graduate. So I was been selling a high technical products. And mostly the people were thinking that I am coming from good engineering background and all that. When you have hunger, again, you keep on learning, and you never give up. Probably in commerce, we don't know what is a centimeter and inch and feet, right? And here you come to the microns and you come with the different terminology and understanding different. So we moved into the variety of business. We moved into the automation of gas stations, industrial valves, and other things. At that time, in probably 2007, when I was traveling to the Germany, I found that people were mounting solar panels on the exhibition center in a particular Hamburg. And I asked our friends, what are they doing? What is this? And they explained me this is solar energy. If you put on the roof, so you can generate the power. See, where is the sun? The country like Germany, there is no sun. And we start thinking that why, when we are looking for some bigger business opportunity, why don't we start learning this? And we found that this is the something which I was looking for. This is good for the world, good for the economy, good for the people, and of course good for India, with a huge opportunity. And how we landed into the solar and that business we could grow. In general, when I look back and see that what was there, the one was madness, you can call to answer that as the hunger. I mean, it is like you are mad, you are every time you are looking for something. The second madness I will call is the probably a very strong belief under my gut feeling. Of course, it has cost me a lot. I have failed at many places. My judgments were wrong, but still today, if I look back, I think that is the second largest thing, the belief in myself that I will do this and I can do it.
So, out of that, and I want to continue the story, but if I may take a break with your permission, out of that
Please.
constraints that you saw, that were you to go back and know those constraints, then you could have saved, would have saved, much may have some of the turbulences or the learning experiences of your life. What would those be just till this point of your journey? And you could say to your friends or to the readers, this is what I would not do. What would those be?
Probably I will say that short-term thinking or short-term benefits, probably wherever we thought, we are not thought much, but if I recollect one or two incidents where we thought, let us try to save today and we'll see what to do tomorrow. That we will never do. Of course, we are not doing it. But in one or two instances, if I could remember in our old days, when you are too much under pressure, and that's real testing time, and you take certain call for today. So short-term thinking and short-term decisions, we should not think that comes to the product quality, product dispatches. You want to dispatch something today. If you don't do it, you are going to be killed. And at that time, you try to do something which is, you find that it is not a correct way of doing it. Second thing I have seen is in today's competitive world, mostly your customers and other stakeholders, particularly in the solar industry, they try to push you, which is again is a short term. So there you need to be firm. Second thing comes on the employee side, I will call on the people side. The investment, sometimes you hold your investment on the people side. But that I will never do it. I will say it should be like if you train the people and they will go. But if you don't train the people, what will happen? That I keep a very strong close to my heart, and I think that's the second thing. Third thing comes to the small thinking. When you are starting the business, and particularly in context of the Indian entrepreneurship, like the difference I see in the developed countries and here. Here you have the father's shop, and your vision is to go to the shop and develop that shop. Maximum now in today's generation, the story is different. I'm talking about the 20 years back. Maximum you can think of is buying a next shop to you. Here the difference, what came into our generations. After traveling, we understood that we don't have to think about that. We have to think about our shops worldwide, not only the next shop. So I call a small thinking. Wherever we have done, probably we learned from there that we have to think much, much bigger, particularly the Indian context and what we were thinking.
Thank you. That was very, very valuable. So Hiteshji, you just very, very intelligently provided three what not to do's, and they are very, very valuable. Let me summarize what I heard. I think I'm going to go back from the three to the one, because the third creates the global markets, which is don't think small. It is a mental discipline that, of course, one needs to get into. The second is the value of your employees. Don't contain yourself to training and to hiring good employees, because they create your future, which allows you to think of more than just small. They make you think big, right? And the first thing that is important from your point of view was the affirmation that you don't succeed in any markets without just on a gut level feeling, but at some point in time an entrepreneur transforms himself or herself into being from a founder to an entrepreneur who creates, who thinks much more than just from the gut. Is that correct? Is that the summary of your points?
The last thing I could not. Entrepreneur
What from your
thinks
gut? From your guts. You said you were originally thinking from your gut the first initially, and then you realized that you made mistakes, and so you could have that guts and things which you could transform into a better plan, and you wouldn't do that if just from the guts, because every time, although gut helped you launch the business, it is much easier to have some kind of logic to the gut. That was your first. That's what I heard as your first assessment.
right.
Okay. Okay. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So one of the things that I admire about you, and I have spoken about you and your organization in a lot of conversations and sort of chats and talks, is how you have brought together a family in business. In most parts of the world, nepotism is considered to be not an incentive for a high growth family, a high growth business, excuse me. But whenever I see you, and I have visited your operations when you were much younger, in both age and your size of business, the cohesiveness that you had between all your brothers and nephews who stood by you in this growth period is unparalleled. Does that come because of who you are, or is it common to the culture that you mentioned?
I think that goes to my mother and father. We have been brought up in such a way where it is called that the joint family is the foundation of happy living. So money and business is definitely important, but having certain values of the family togetherness has been taught to us much early, probably from we born, and the charity. So these two things came along with the inner DNA, I will call, along with the business. So today also we are 22 people staying together, eating together, and doing the business together. And this is a fourth generation now in the home together. So that comes in a different, I will say, angle to our life. Happiness is very important along with the business. And we think that in the morning and the evening when we come to the home, are we all eating together, talking to each other? And in our family, we're not allowed to talk the business after we come to the home. So we have to finish everything in the office, even between the brothers, And after we come to the home, we talk only the social things or some charitable things. The other thing along with this family, when I was young, probably we have been trained that you spend certain time if you don't have the money in some charitable activities. So that is normally when we were young, we have been asked at least a half a day on Sunday morning that you go and help others whatever way you can. So this you can consider as a very strong support system to sleep well and to be always satisfied whatever you have. Of course, when you have a big team inside the organization from the family, and if the works are divided properly, the understandings have been made very clearly, and you have a very frequent top level family meetings in the office to discuss whatever the issues on that. So next day it doesn't appear to be there that issues, and you get resolved it fastly with certain rules and non-written bindings. That supports a huge to grow the business too.
It's very true. It needs to be bred in. It cannot just happen by itself, and that is not something you find very common in the Western side of entrepreneurship. Right? So that's a very valuable lesson to learn from for all of us as fathers, and to bring up their children where such disciplines can be of significant value in your journey. It is by as an entrepreneur. Could you share a few things, few persons that totally impacted and changed your life into being what you are today? And they can be funny or they can be emotional.
See, as my mother and father, I always call them that you have given me a big value systems and big wings to fly. So when it comes to the 2%, definitely first it comes to the mother and father for giving the huge value systems and uh, huge wings to fly across the globe. But when it comes to the learning, or I think very difficult for me because what are the people I met, I learned from them. The people who stayed with whom I stayed longer, I learned from them, and the people who have supported me in early days, like one of my cousin brother called Rashmikant Prasad. When I was doing this trading, he offered me, why don't you do in a pressure and temperature gauges? And he started supporting me. And the learning where I got from him was in early days is very, very valuable. What was learning that? It's a different learning. When I was going to him and meet and if he wants to make some notes, the first thing he was finding the best papers. Then he was cutting it properly and putting it in a proper pad, and he was making the notes on them. So right from that, there are really small, small funny things about the systems and other things. You are young, like I started the business of 18, and I was not knowing anything about the pressure or temperature or other things. So that has impacted me, of course, on the business side very much. More I see when I difference which I told you, what we think in India, and that is what about the Indian corporations. If you look to the 20 years back, if you remove probably 2 dozen of the companies or 3 dozen of the companies, most of the companies are either city centric, state centric, or India centric. Which I learned during my travel that the companies who are thinking globally, they could grow, and this is what we have been missing in it. It's very difficult to give you the name and such things, but it's everyday journey, and I keep
Of
on
course
learning.
it is. The other thing, Irish Bhai, that I absolutely learned from you in some of the meetings that I watched you in your office was the control of the destiny through capital. there is abundance of different types of capital in India. And your business in solar at a certain point required a huge amount of capital outlays. And so you worked intelligently to find ways to seek those capital sources in spite of a lot of different kinds of capital being available to you, to keep in charge of your destiny, to build the way the company you wanted and you wanted, your family wanted. Tell me or tell us, share with us some of those decision making processes or not to do in choosing capital.
I was a little bit different here. We have not built our own capital. So we do not had any time the outside investors inside the organization. So we first 20 years we built the business by own profits year on year. Then we found that now this business has reached to the certain level and we have the opportunity for the much bigger businesses. So we sold the companies. And whatever the money we got from these companies, again we invested back in a big opportunities like the solar and others, walls and other businesses. So far today, we have been a conservative on bringing the capital from outside. So all the capital what has been there in the company it is by the family. On a date side also we have been conservative during this journey. We are not leveraged much and always kept with the low date organization. And all the expansions we are doing, like at present, whatever the capacities of productions we have, in next 1 year we are going to double it. That also we are planning from our own capital. So our journey for the capital is a little bit different. But today on the other side, probably every month I invest at least very small amounts, they are not big, in the new ventures as angel funding or seed funding and with very small ticket size. So when I see these entrepreneurs and when I meet this, I go for some of the meetings when the investment presentations are there. I think any good idea, if you come up with such platforms, the enough capital they are able to raise and probably with some good value systems, good background of the people, and good business idea. Capital is not a problem.
No, that's correct. Thank you. A part of who you are is inspirational to the outside people, including myself. How would you, Hitesh bhai, like to be remembered and inspire others as you built and continue to build this empire called the Waaree Group of Industries?
I go back to the Waaree value systems here, and that's what I would like to tell the people that if you have a strong foundation of the organization, how your customers remember you, and that is, I think, all stakeholders, not of course only the customers. If that remembrance or if that memories are good, if I can give that message constantly by the way you are servicing them, you are treating them, it comes from a value system to the respect of individuals, or it goes back to the continuous innovation or customer service. Whatever value system Waaree has been there, and we could go there. I think that's what I would like to remember for the business. Or a personal life where I spend today at least by 2 days in a week. That is how you help others to, and you know the situation of India much better than me probably. And what you do every day. I focus particularly on supporting for the education and the food. If somebody follows that, whatever he can do for others, probably that will be the great satisfaction apart from the business.
You are a president of one of the largest Jain charitable organizations in the world. You have been reported and quoted as saying to enhance the quality of life of the children. Your wife is dedicated immensely to educating children in different parts of India and everything like that. So that is leading by example what you say in the actual world of your everyday to day life. Is there anything more you wanted to add to that assessment of mine?
So perfect. You are doing a great assessment and
Okay.
great
No.
direction.
So now, of course, I have asked you a lot of questions. Thank you for being so patient with me. You have the opportunity now to ask me a few questions that you feel are appropriate for this interview. And I would be very happy to share whatever I know.
As I started that, this is the first time I'm opening myself, particularly in front of camera, and and people talk and people see about us, and you have been saying this to me. I would like to understand what you think, what we have done right, and what we should not have done.
I have learned sitting in your office for very short periods of time in my life. A person who is not only dedicated to work, but who is dedicated to the thought of making things work, right? Yes, you tried a lot of street lamps. Yes, you tried this. Yes, we know that. But you persevered through the process. So what I would have done, I mean, from an outside person, which may not be the correct way of thinking, because like you said, the economics of India are a lot more different than the rest of the economics of the world. And so, but I can only, since you asked me the question, I would not change any aspect of your personality because it is the perfect personality to follow and to emulate in what you are. The things that I probably would think differently, which you already have, is in enabling the partnerships of the programs that you have brought together in an accelerated manner because of the conservativeness that you follow. For example, in the bifacial, now you are the leader. Panels, you are the leader. Merlin Technologies was an experiment in sort of in a half-hearted way, and then you began to expand it. So some of these things you could become the major player from an aspect of entrepreneurship, were you to commit the resources to them as passionately as you did to making the baseline of your module business grow. Now, if for that you had to access outside capital, I do not know that. But you could have created a monumental glow. You could still, and you would have created the largest market share in those segments, which eventually you would due to your persistence and your infrastructure. If that is only an input, that would be that thought process that I would share with you.
Really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, Dr. Hitesh Bhai, you are such a privilege to talk to. Thank you for
Thank you.
taking the time. And I am sure the readers of What Not to Do would be learning from you, as I have learned all through my acquaintances and interactions with you, but also through the book that you will be a part of. Good morning and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and
Thanks.
Robert's. Thank you.